It is time for another episode of the Portsmouth Comic Con podcast. It is getting closer, and I can't wait. The 3rd and 4th of May is just around the corner, and today I'm joined by a fantastic comic artist who will be coming back to Portsmouth Comic Con this year. Cian Tormey, welcome, sir.
Thank you so much, man. It's great to see you. It's been a year.
It's been a year, and it has flown by. I absolutely adored our brief interaction last year. We got to have a little chat, and it was wonderful to see you interact with the crowds. It's something that I love to see about Comic Cons, especially Artist Alley. It's when artists and creators get to speak with their audience, whether that be new or audience that have been around for a while. And I can't wait to get more into that today. So yes, we know you are coming back to the event, but if you could share a bit of your origin story with the listeners and watchers, please, Cian.
Yeah, sure. So I am an exclusive artist for DC Comics. Before I worked in comics, I was an art director for about 11 years in advertising. So I had like a nice, an award-winning career, both national and international, back home before I made the transition into comics. And I think that was probably about maybe 8 years ago. So I think I've been working full-time for about 8 years, but I've been exclusive with DC for about coming up on 4 years now. So yeah, that's about it in a nutshell.
It's a big list of names that you've worked on, though. It's big hitters all the way around the board. Of course, my boy Superman is in there, but you've also got Green Lantern, you've got Catwoman, you've got Injustice, you've got so much that you have helped bring alive. What if you could go back to say when you were a budding artist many a year ago? Not many there, with that wonderful fresh face that you've got, Cian. But
this morning,
how would you explain to a younger self that one day you're going to be creating some of the world's biggest heroes, heroines, and villains?
You know, it's something that I think I always wanted it, and I never really worried too much about whether it was going to happen or not. I don't think I was really kind of concerned about whether it was going to happen until I bounced off breaking into comics a couple of times, because I had the idea that I was going to work in comics. I studied graphic design because I thought I was going to get into illustration, and there wasn't really actually much illustration on the course that I ended up doing. So when I finished college, I had just the general idea that I was going to work in comics, and I moved to Spain, and I decided I was going to just create this portfolio, but I didn't really kind of have any real drive to do it, and I didn't really have any kind of general plan for it. So I was also kind of like, I just wanted to be 22, 23 and just be living in Spain. So that's what I had initially done. My mother used to have a house in Florida, and she would play golf a lot over there. And one of the days she was playing golf with a guy, and she was saying, oh, my son had finished college and he'd done a graphic novel. And he said, oh, I'd love to see it. And it turns out the guy she was playing golf with was Jim Galton, who was the ex-president of Marvel Comics. Yeah, so there's a reason for this story, right? Yeah, just bonkers. But that's life, right? I mean, you just bounce off these mad things. So the reason why this is interesting is because I had decided then, obviously I had access to this guy. And my mum said, Cian, just get your work together, just get this, we can send this over to him. And I just didn't do it. I don't know what it was. I think I was kind of flaky when I was younger as well. So I had drawings, and I kind of knew I was good at drawing, but I didn't really know what to do. And then I had this opportunity, and then I was kind of young, and I was like, I left it too long. And I used to be the kind of person who'd get really worried about oh, it's too late now. And it's never too late. I should have just sent him stuff, but I didn't. And then in the end, I ended up moving back from Spain, and I started working in advertising, and I really enjoyed that, Luke. I loved working in advertising. By the time I left, it wasn't advertising anymore, but it was a really creative industry. It was extremely high pressure. You had to perform, and it was, I loved it. We're making TV ads, print ads. I was managing photo shoots. I was managing TV ads, stuff like that. It was pretty cool. And the whole idea of getting into comics just kind of fell to the side. I just didn't do it. And it wasn't until the copywriter that I was working with said there was going to be a comic convention in Dublin called DICE, and there was going to be a Marvel editor there, and it turned out it was C.B. Cebulski. So I was like, all right, Cian, it's time to do it. Like,
this is it. This is it now.
100%. Yeah, right. Like you bounced off it the first time and that was entirely your own fault. But like, like pull out all the stops and see if you can do it. And so over the course of like the 2 weeks beforehand, I drew a load of test pages and all this kind of stuff. And I went and I presented the stuff to CB Cebulski. He gave me his business card and he said, email me in like a week and I will send you some test scripts. So I did. And he sent me test scripts. And honestly, Luke, at the time I was thinking, I don't know, like, do I really want to work in comics? Because I was really enjoying advertising, really enjoying it. And that's not how this works. Like just the idea that it was even going to be a decision for me is just ridiculous to even consider. But I spent about maybe 3 or 4 months working on these 5 pages, which is ludicrous because like you need to produce, like now I draw 5 pages in a week. The idea that I spent that much time just kind of mooning around and trying to get it right. So needless to say, I sent all that stuff back to CB Cebulski, but he never replied. Like, why would he? I'm not saying that it's a metric for whether you can do the job or not, but I mean, if they say do some test pages and you spend a couple of months before you get back, he doesn't give a shit, like at that point, And right, and so I don't think I would if I was him either. So what basically happened was it just kind of felt like I bounced off it again. So, I had screwed up this second opportunity. And these opportunities felt so momentous, like I just didn't think I was going to get through anything. And I decided then and there, sorry, this is a very long answer to your question.
No, I'm loving it. It's fine.
Yeah. So in the end, the decision was, I was like, either just give this up or just do it myself. So that was kind of the decision that I was like, is you like working in advertising? I was about 4 years into my ad career. And I was like, do you really care? Like, is it like, this is a real life job you have right now? Not that comics aren't a real life job, but I mean, as in this is a career, you're on a path here and it's going well. But part of me was like, yeah, but part of that advertising culture at the time was all very much, and this was around the time of, the hustle culture, like everyone had a side job, everybody was doing more, like, you did as much stuff as you could during work, but everybody was working on trying to make it, just on the side. So, I ended up just making the decision that I was just going to try and draw and apply for things myself, and forget about this idea of just going straight for Marvel, because Marvel was all I ever wanted. And so it then kind of was just a few years of just drawing, taking commissions. I applied for. Do you remember when Sean Murphy did the? He had an artist retreat where he had 5 people went to his house in the States. And they produced a book together. Do you remember that? Sean Murphy, artist of White Knight and Tokyo Ghosts and all of those, Punk Rock Jesus. So I applied for that the second year, and he was looking for 5 more artists to come to his house. And I got to tell you, like, I don't know where the confidence comes from, but I was convinced I was going to get it. Like, I was really like, almost manifesting. I was like, I'm going there. I know he's going to pick me. He cancelled it that year. There was legal things that he said about like bringing people over or whatever. There was a reason why he didn't do it. He reached out to me privately and said, DC has asked me, is there anybody that I thought kind of was good enough to pass on to their editors? And so Sean sent me on to Brian Cunningham, who was the group editor of all of the Justice League books at the time. All of this kind of got me closer and closer. I reached out to Sean then to write me a letter of recommendation for the talent hunt that DC did. And then Brian Cunningham said, look, Cian, I'll make sure that you're on it if you get all of your work in on this particular day. So I ended up doing that. And then I got into the semi-finalists or the finalists or something. And then like I failed that too. And I just kept like kind of bouncing off everything. And so in the end, like all of these things, all of the ways in, nothing worked. And then but cool, I was busy. I was doing something else. But the thing was, I think I'd realized that I had to keep applying for all these opportunities, but I don't think I ever really thought any of the opportunities would actually kind of do it. Maybe the talent hunt thing, because I felt like I was having Zoom calls with Klaus Janson and with Bobby Chase and all of these things. It was a weird experience. But when it didn't happen, I was fine. I was still making ads. I had a whole other career and stuff. it was just that for this parallel track, I was just drawing comics and making ads for about maybe 4 years. I was working like evenings and weekends on comics and then working this flat out thing. I couldn't do it now, dude. Like the gray in my beard is from that. Like that's gone. But in terms of what would I say to myself back then, like, I don't know. I think I got in when I was supposed to. I don't think I was ready for it any of the times that I'd applied for it, and the opportunities kind of flew past. So I don't know. Like I'm pretty sanguine about these things, a pretty healthy kind of outlook. Like I don't think I would be as good as I am now if I had gotten in earlier. I think an awful lot of the things that helped me navigate this life, because this is kind of, I've gone from working in creative departments to working on my own. And, you know yourself, like without the kind of framework and the hierarchy of like management and, you know, checks and balances on the work you produce, you're doing all of this stuff on your own. It's very easy to get in your own head. And like, if you start to tailspin and go, oh, my work isn't good enough, or my editors don't like me, there's no one else to balance you out. I don't think I could have handled that when I was younger. So I think I got into it at the right time.
I think so. And I mean, coming from, you know, that ad business world, you've come from very high demanding, very stressful work environments. And you've clearly put that into your work with the added elements of creativity and also being, you know, a harsh critic. You want to be putting out the best work that you possibly can. And that's definitely, I'm sure, has gone towards this wonderful self-confidence that you have, but also the fact that you can back it up as well. And I love that passion in your voice when you start talking about comics, because that's clearly something that's come across your work over the years. Going back to the advertising days, what's one of some of the more, probably can't mention any brands, but did you have any like projects that you were really proud of?
Yeah, like I did some fun ads, you know, like ads that made people laugh and stuff. But I think that the most promising, or not the most promising, the most important and impactful thing I did, by the time I finished, I did a whole campaign for the Department of Justice back in Ireland, you know, just to raise awareness for sexual violence and stuff like that. And we produced all of this whole thing about different scenarios where this happens. But we had a whole reactive online campaign and stuff like that we had like built this whole tool to scrape information from Twitter to see people who were attacking the ad. So we pulled that into like live banner ads and things that were like, look at the excuses people make, even though they're watching it happen in the ad. Like, yeah, we won like all sorts of awards and stuff. So it was really cool. But like by the time I got to the end of all of that, like so much of the advertising stuff has just turned into like data and marketing and stuff. And it was harder to get the clients to buy creative things, creative ideas. To be honest, by the time I transitioned over to comics, like one of the other things that was brilliant about having worked in something previous was the fact that, like, it doesn't matter. Nothing could ever be bad in this job that would make me as disheartened by the time I left the last career. So that's the other thing that's important. Yeah. So like, this is my second career, and therefore, and it's the one that I worked so hard to get into, that this is always rewarding. Like, and not only that, but in terms of being a creative person and having worked in an industry where you were trying to sell creative ideas and trying to shepherd like the core of the idea through to the end, even though people were chipping at it all the time, like that doesn't happen in comics. No. When I sign on to a job and I get the script sent to me, apart from the fact there's a little bit of a collaborative thing there, you know, but when I'm doing my layouts and then I'm doing my pages, like I'm creating every day, you know, so like by the end of it, you have this immediate production line where the thing you made is in your hands. It's in everybody's hands all around the world immediately. And the client doesn't stand in the way. The client is DC. Like they want this thing to be the best thing it can be. So yeah, so I don't know. It's this has become far more creatively rewarding because it's juxtaposed by this other career where I made really creative things, but it was so hard to get something made. And to get it made the way you wanted it to, when at any given point a client will step in and try and tweak something, or they get cold feet on something that they were really into in the boardroom when you pitched it and stuff. But that doesn't happen here. So like this is an incredibly creatively rewarding job, which it has to be because I work much longer days than I ever did in advertising.
You're your own boss now. You're having these conversations with yourself saying, why is this not finished? Why is this deadline not been met? It's all your fault. Lovely. Love that.
Yeah. It's kind of freeing as well, just because like my personality wise, I think when I worked and I had like creative directors and CEOs and stuff above me, I was always really worried I was going to get fired. You know, that horrible feeling, like if somebody says, "Oh, come in and we need to talk," and you're like, "Oh shit, what's gone wrong?"
Yeah, right. Nobody likes that. We need to talk next week when you come in.
So I would like, hey, and I'm Irish too, so like we naturally assume something's gone terribly wrong. Like so like I would catastrophize anytime I heard stuff like that.
Oh.
So yeah, so not having any of that is genuinely a massive thing. Working for yourself, you're sitting here going, oh, like at any given moment, like I think that the confidence I mentioned before comes from the fact that they've come to me and hired me for this job. So I'm already good enough. I haven't applied for this. Like they've offered this to me. There's only one job for me to do. I've only got one hat on in this job. I have to draw this stuff.
Yes.
If I know that's good enough and people enjoy the work, and that's one of the benefits as well of doing the shows, and we'll talk about that in a second, but you work for yourself, you don't have any of that kind of worry, you have the validation of the fact that the work has come to you in the first place. So it really does do a lot for your self-confidence to not be worried that somebody's looking at what you're doing and something's gonna go wrong. You're already, once the layouts are approved, all you've got to do is make sure that you don't draw too many janky hands and stuff like that.
And that's it. But is there element of, am I good enough? Is my work good enough? Is it up to scratch? You know that it is now because, as you quite rightly said, they've come to you. It's not you now sending out your work. It's not you meeting somebody at a Comic Con. Now these companies, which is fantastic, are coming to you for the work, which is fantastic. Yeah. What was it like when you first saw your work in a comic?
Oh man, like I've had this. It's reminded me of two things that I was going to say, but just like I remember not just the first time I saw my work in a comic, but the first time the solicitation came out that like was my comic, because like so it started off with it's quite common practice for the big two to like kind of bleed you with or blood you. Sorry, not bleed. Well, they bleed you as well sometimes, but they blood you with 10-page stories. So you'll often be given, like the editors want to know if you can do the job. So they'll give you like a 10-pager in one of the anthology books. I did a lot of those in the first year. I did a 10-page Doom story for Marvel, first of all, but I had done, the very first work I ever did was with Kyle Higgins on Mysteries of Love in Space. It was a Kilowog story. And so the first time you see that, it's in amongst lots of other stories. So it was kind of a trip. But then I worked with guys like Paul Dini and stuff like that at the beginning of my career, like just bonkers names. Yeah, and that's all thanks to a guy called Dave Wheelgus. He's gone full-time writing now, but he was the best editor I've ever worked with. He was amazing. He got me on so many crazy stories, and also with some of the best colorists like Matt Hollingsworth and stuff like that like I could have only dreamed of. Dave seemed to pull these great teams together. But seeing that was amazing, but it was, I think, Batwoman then was when I saw my first name was on the cover, like as in it wasn't an anthology book, it was one of my issues. And then I've got two issues of Catwoman that Sean wrote with Blake Northcott, Sean Murphy. And because Sean has been kind of like a guardian angel at the side of my career quite a few times in the early days. Like I feel like he kind of really looked out for me and stuff. He's an amazing guy. But I've got two of those signed by Sean and Blake and me up in like the little plastic shields and stuff up on the wall in the sitting room. Man, those things and getting the solicitations where it's your cover, then that was like the next thing, the next achievement. This never grows old. So like the long answer being, and the short version of the long answer is, seeing the stuff now is exactly the same as seeing it when it first happened. Like behind me here on the shelves, I've got boxes and boxes of all of these question issues I'm doing at the moment because they send you the comps. Every time the doorbell rings and you open the box and it's all of your issues, like, dude, this never changes. It's amazing every time. It genuinely is. I love it.
And that's what I love. I've seen that passion now come from you when I saw you at Portsmouth Comic Con last year. I'm looking forward to seeing more of that this year. To see you not only create commissions effortlessly while still talking and having a fantastic and exciting conversation is a wonderful thing to see. And I'm looking forward to seeing that more this year. What was it like coming from somebody, again, from the world of advertising that is used to selling the product? You're now the product. So a lot of artists and creators we see at Comic Cons are technically sometimes quite introverted. They're not putting themselves out there, all their work, which is sometimes hard to do. What's it like for somebody coming from that background to say, no, this is my work, enjoy it, come check it out?
Yeah, so it's kind of a mix of two things, because you've got two things at war with each other. You've got your natural kind of tendency to just not really want to talk to. It depends on your energy, you know. Sometimes you just don't want to be out, you don't want to be in the middle of everything. And then the other thing is also that, like, the more I work in this, the more I realize just how much of the job is, there's several different facets to it, and they all need to function at the same time, and they all need to be kind of fine-tuned constantly and readjusted. Like, so I can sit here and I can work, and if my editors are happy, I will get more work. But I also still need people to be asking for my name when they go into a comic store. So I also need to cater to fans. So you do have to maintain a public-facing aspect of all of this. Like, you could just sit here and just take all the work from editors and you just kind of blast the work out. And you'd hope maybe that by doing that, you'll be put on the right project that might blow your name up anyway. But I think as well, like, at the moment, for example, so the name that everybody talks about is Dan Mora. Dan Mora is doing both of these two things that I've just mentioned at the same time. That guy is blasting out incredible work. The editors are happy. He hits all his deadlines. His work's prolific. But he's literally the only name that you hear people mention. If you open Reddit and you look at any kind of posts about modern comics, Dan Mora's name is everywhere, not just because the work is amazing, but he is everywhere. So you do have to manage the public facing side of that. And it's tiring, man. Like, because again, you know, there's the problem of working on something and not feeling that you can share it while you're working on it. And just by the nature, just the way the creative process is and the way publishing goes, by the time something is coming out, I'm already working on something else. And I don't want to go back and start posting about something I've already done. And you have to force yourself to do it. So, like, for example, I'm drawing, I think issue 4 of The Question is out about a week and a half. Issue 5 will be out in about 2 weeks. I'm drawing issue 6 at the moment. So by the time issue 5 comes out, I should be working on the next project. And I don't want to go back and start posting about that stuff. I have to.
Yeah.
But I'm guilty, I think, in the last couple of years of letting some of that slide, because, you know, coming from advertising and treating myself like a brand and posting constantly, like, I mean, you understand this implicitly just because of all of your Geek of Steel stuff. Like, you have to have constant content. You need to be dependable in the quality and the consistency of your posts and things like that. And that's what I think got the editors at Marvel knew who I was. Ricky Purden had been talking to me for years. And then it was afterwards that, again, it was Tyler Higgins, the writer, that came to me and suggested me to DC, and DC then gave me the work and stuff. People knew who I was because I was constantly posting and I was always part of the conversation. And I don't actually do that as much now. And I did a talk. I addressed Amy Chu's class in one of the fine art universities in Manhattan 2 weeks ago. And we were talking about how to break in to comics. And I was like, I don't really know anymore. You know, because, like, dude, in 10 years, social media has completely changed. Like, I don't know. I don't know if you can do this, but you need to kind of hustle harder. But these platforms have changed so much. So, again, talking to Rory Coleman, I don't know if you know him. He's a Northern Irish artist for Marvel. He's one of my best friends. We were talking about this literally yesterday, just in terms of constantly having to innovate within the space of, like, what kind of other projects, what other platforms can we be on? Do we launch Substacks now because people don't want to be listening to just, or like in Twitter, watching you shout into the void? People are coming to you for direct voices and stuff like that. It's tough, but the advertising part of my brain that gets exercised now is trying to find ways around the problems of current social media platforms to push my own brand. Like, that stuff is happening more than me actually doing anything, I suppose, is the answer. It's like, I'm not doing any of it, but I am thinking about it.
Well, that's it. The thought process is still there, Cian, which is the main thing. But as you said,
exactly, I haven't given up yet.
Good. And like, you wouldn't ever give up. This whole idea of you know, manifesting it and these opportunities that have come your way, not all of them have been home runs, but it hasn't stopped your determination, which I absolutely adore. Going back, I need to ask some questions about Superman, clearly, but
Yeah,
what was
yeah.
it like for you when you found out you were doing some work for Superman?
Well, so I'll tell you what, not good
Really?
is the answer. Yeah, and I'll explain
Wow.
to you exactly why. I don't know. I'm surprised I didn't tell you this last year, but so not good, but for funny reasons.
Okay.
So I was during the pandemic at the beginning, just before it kicked off. I was like, I would consider, and I would imagine most comic artists will back me up on this. You kind of come into this career without any real kind of clear guidance of where how to grow within the career, right? So you start off with your 10-page stories, and then you'll be offered like a full issue to see if you can bring the 20 pages in on time. Which is like, it is surprisingly difficult. I know it's only double your 10-pager, but it is surprisingly difficult. Then I got like 2 issues together on Batgirl, but then Catwoman, Sean requested me on that. And each one of these feels like a step up, you know? And it was, but you're waiting for your first kind of comic. And Marvel's asked me to do Darkhold with Steve Orlando, and it was 2 30-page issues, which was a big one. But I was like, cool. Marvel had come to me at Christmas and pitched me another series, and I actually turned it down because I didn't think I was the right person for it, which is a scary thing to do. Yeah. So it was pretty scary. But then the next day, a different team, Will Moss in Marvel, pitched me Darkhold. So I said yes to that. And the reason why I say all this is because the pandemic then kicked in, and I don't know if you remember, but like literally everything stopped. Like Marvel basically stopped. So DC continued on doing digital-only comics, but Marvel basically stopped because they didn't want to start releasing stuff and lose all of the comic stores, which had to close because of the pandemic. So what ended up happening was I was doing more and more DC work because they were commissioning more and more digital stuff. And I had drawn one of these 30-page issues for Darkhold, but Darkhold had been paused because they couldn't release them. So I was kind of running out. I think I'd finished Catwoman, and I don't think I was working on. Oh no, I had just finished Injustice. I had just finished Injustice with Tom Taylor, and what was I going to say? Marvel got back in touch with me, and they'd been lifting restrictions in the States, and they were like, okay, we're going to do the second part of Darkhold, and I then opened my phone to see a tweet that I'd been tagged in by Tom that apparently I was drawing a Nightwing annual, but they hadn't told me. So I had a 30-page Nightwing annual and a 30-page Darkhold book to draw at the same time.
Wow.
And so these are the kind of things you can do before you find out that they're impossible to do, you know, that kind of way.
Yeah.
Like, so I was like, oh, I can do it. I drew these 2 things. It was hell, man. I mean, genuinely hell. Just like, and I was working traditionally at the time. Oh my God, the whole thing was horrific. And that was when, at the time, Tom messaged me, Tom Taylor, and he was like, Cian, I have this project, and I think you'd be really right for it. But, you know, it's going to be the first issue or 2 are probably going to be kind of tight. And I was like, look, whatever it is, Tom, I'll work with you on anything, man. But please don't hand me something that's going to be a nightmare. Because just coming off the last 2 books, man, that was like 2 months of drawing 60 pages. Like, it was ridiculous. And he put me in touch with Mike Cotton, who was the editor on Superman at the time. And I still had kind of like an advertising head, and I realized that this was my opportunity to step away from doing individual issues, and this was a series. And I just didn't want it to be difficult. And when they told me it was Son of Superman, and then they told me like my first issue was going to be like, I had 2 weeks to do it, I was like, I'm not doing this. And then I was so burnt out. I was like, how can the greatest opportunity of my life happen at a time when, like, I don't think I can even pick up a pencil? Like, I was destroyed. We jigged some stuff around, and Mike Cotton left the job, and Paul Kaminsky took over. He's the group editor of all the Superman books. Paul's become a really good friend of mine now, and I've worked with him pretty much consistently ever since. And everything came together, and we kind of pulled it out. And it was around that time after the pandemic and Superman had started that I moved back to Spain, where I live now. So that job ended up being one of the best. Man, I will be thankful to Superman and to Tom Taylor forever. But at that time,
it was just it
was
happen.
the worst. It was the worst thing, dude. I really couldn't. Oh God, even like I'm getting the chills even thinking about it again.
You're
So
getting
yeah,
some stress going back. You're getting secondhand stress now from it. Well,
but yeah, it was amazing,
oh,
dude. And like I was never a big Superman fan, but the way Tom wrote um John Kent specifically, and then I got to draw the return of Superman, which is behind you on the
yes,
shelf there. That moment where where John and Clark reunite.
it's
And
a beautiful piece. This is what I got
thank
from
you,
you
man.
from the Comic Con last year.
Yeah,
One of my favorite items. But yes,
yeah. I still use that as the key visuals when I do shows and stuff like that. I usually use that as the banner just because I love it.
not bad. It's not a bad banner. I've seen it. I was almost going to take it home last year, but but you know, you've had these moments in your life where you've had opportunity knocking at the door. What I like is the fact that you've kicked it down. You've kicked down that door through your determination, the confidence, but the skills to back it up as well, which is why now you are, you know, you're making waves. You're getting repetitive work. You're still putting and consistent work out there. Your name is out there, but you're still doing the tours as well, kid, which is incredible. So you are clearly you're not scared of hard work at all.
No. And like I said, the hard work that you put into making comics, you literally, at the end of like 4 weeks after I finished one of my issues, I have it in my hand. So like there is a literal payoff. There is a physical, tangible like product at the end of the hard work you do. And then in terms of doing the touring, yeah, you can be tired and stuff like that. But when you're doing shows, you're not just making comics for yourself. Like I'm telling stories to people who like, man, you remember. I mean, obviously, the reason why we're even having this conversation, comics for both of us growing up were just fundamental building pieces in who we are. And like, that's what you're doing now. Hopefully you're telling stories that somebody's picked up, even if nobody reads your comics, somebody will find it and it will leave some kind of a core memory to somebody. I just hope that there are people like lying on the floor at home drawing some of the stuff that I'm drawing, because that's the way I started. So, you know, those are the things that like, that's what makes all of this worth it. Like the story that I remember that I was going to say to you when you were talking about what's it like seeing your first comic. I remember going to my first New York Comic Con, and I was only there as a fan, and I was talking to, I can't remember who it was, but anyway, I was brought upstairs to the green room, the DC green room. So in New York, have you been to New York Comic Con?
It's on my list. Hopefully for this year. Fingers crossed.
Okay, well, look, if I go there this year and you're there as well, we'll hang out. Like, but
please.
It's going to blow your mind. But the crazy thing is, DC used to have like on the main floor. There's about 4 floors in the New York Comic Con. It's huge. There's about 60,000 people there every day. It's like super intense. But there's a on the main shop floor where you've got all the massive stands for like Marvel, DC, and Funko Pop and all that, like everything. It's absolutely enormous. There was a glass box that was like, you know, like something you'd see at a football match.
Yeah.
That's where DC was. So you could go upstairs and you'd be sitting down with like rubbing shoulders with the top, because it's where everybody just went just to get a breathing space. So there was like food and drinks and stuff up there. I remember going upstairs and Ben Abernathy, who was doing talent relations at the time, he's just left DC, but he was running all the Batman stuff for a while. I remember walking in and he just was like, Cian, it's nice to finally meet you. Listen, make yourself at home. You're part of the family. And I remember turning around. Yeah, it was just crazy. It was like, it was one of the nicest things I've ever experienced, because like the whole thing was overwhelming. The new career was quite scary. Like it was just so cool. But Nick Roach was behind me, the Irish artist, and Stephen Mooney. And I remember talking to them about, I had just done that Green Lantern, the Kilowog story with Kyle Higgins. And I remember talking to them about it, going like, guys, do you not find it kind of crazy that these universes that we've grown up in the orbit of, like our whole lives, we are now reaching directly in and like we're changing things like that. I designed a character for my first Green Lantern story. He may never turn up again, but he exists somewhere in that universe. Like he's there. I made that. And since then, like I've created new characters and I've redesigned stuff. Like it's a part of the job. Like you do it all the time. But man, like just, I don't think that feeling has ever left me, that like this universe has existed for 100 years, and you are actively part of shaping the direction it's currently moving in. And some of the decisions that you make have absolutely like lasting impact on these archetypes. It's crazy. It's crazy. Some of the stories are just flash in the pan, and those are important. But like what we've done with Alan Scott, for example, like that fundamentally has changed him until he changes again. But like that's a huge thing. Like that's kind of humbling. Like
as legacy. That is what you've done.
It is.
And that coming back to this is why one of the comics that I do travel around the world with. And last year I managed to get to San Diego Comic Con, and
amazing.
I got to meet you last year and Tim Sheridan last year.
Oh, great!
And you both signed my Action Comics. Now, this for me, this particular comic, of course, is what for me started this crazy, crazy world. Now, I do have to say to some people, this is a replica. This isn't an original comic. Funnily enough, this isn't Action One, the real. But I love getting people's signature on here just to see their name. Just to see, there's you down there. Oh, mirrored image. There we go. There you are. But it's the fact that people see these names with names now that sadly aren't with us anymore. I've got George Perez on there. I've got Tim Sale. And that's the legacy. That's what you guys are doing. You are
absolutely
creating it for the next step up. And I love that. Again, every time I get to meet with a comic creator, whether it be a writer or a Superman artist, the passion for the storytelling is always there, and it's something that I just adore witnessing, which is why I loved coming to your booth last year, and will do this year.
Looking forward to seeing you, man. Yeah,
it was great.
Yeah, and also I'll never forget. We're talking about branding and advertising. You left. I walked away from my table and I came back, and there was a blue envelope that had a card in it from you and a sticker on the back of it. I still have Jordan's one and my one here, because I picked you left one over for Jordan Thomas, who's one of my best friends. He was at the table beside me, and so you left that, and like I've never forgotten you, obviously, ever since then. It's a brilliant thing to do, but also not just for the kind of the clinical aspect of like a bit of brand and self promotion. I don't think anyone has ever left me a card to say thank you for doing a show before. Like it was lovely. So when you reached out to me and you're like, "Will we do an interview?" I was like, "Yes, please. I'd love to see it. It'd be great."
It was not only me. I love thank you cards. It's something that I've always done throughout my life, and it was thank you for coming, but also thank you for coming to Portsmouth Comic Con. Portsmouth is my hometown. Growing up, I would have adored my town to have a Comic Con. I didn't.
Yeah.
It's for many people, from certain generations, it was hard for us to get our hands on comics. Then the internet came about, and that was fantastic. But there is something so freeing and inclusive about when a Comic-Con is done the right way. And I was so thankful for you for coming down and being a fantastic guest and coming back this year. So you can expect another thank you card this year, Cian. That's for sure. I'll have to up my game now as Mal. But what were some of your favorite memories from cons over the years, Cian?
God, geez, like we'd need another hour. And like they've all been amazing. I'll have to probably give that some thought, but I can tell you just broadly speaking, one of the things that I love the most about comic conventions is I don't think I'll ever forget, certainly the first year in New York, but anytime you go back to New York, but it was very much the same in Portsmouth. You have such a huge outside space at Portsmouth Comic Con. When you get to a comic convention, it's one thing to be inside and looking at whatever the convention is hosting, or what, that's why we're all there. But when you look outside and you see everybody dressed as their favorite characters, like the cosplaying stuff, it's not for me, but nothing makes me feel like a kid as much as walking around New York and turning around and like Carnage or Venom is behind you, or like Thor, and now everybody looks so like it. But when you see the sheer diversity of, like, there are people who have their own identities, whatever way they identify with themselves, Comic-Cons have become, like, the car park out the front of a Comic-Con is one of the most diverse, safest spaces you'll ever find anywhere in the world. It's that to me always that always blows me away. But I'm trying to think, like, what would be, like, personally, I did a show with Adam Hughes last year. Wow. And Phil Jimenez. Yeah. Like, and Alex Sinclair, the guy, yeah, I love Alex. And yeah, so we became friends after doing a show in Utrecht together. And yeah, I did a show in Sweden with Adam and with Phil and stuff like that last year. Like those are crazy experiences. And Julian Totino Tedesco, you know, like the best comic cover artist at the moment. He tabled beside me. He's from Argentina, which I didn't know. So obviously I speak Spanish, so we got to speak a little bit of Spanish while we were in Sweden, which was awesome. So like in terms of professional things, like I'm still a fan, man, and I'm turning up at shows with like some of my art heroes. Like that never gets old. But like I said, I could give you an hour of just what it's like meeting people and like some crazy characters. And then some really precocious kids. Like there was a kid who came over in Sweden and he was like, so do you have a manager? And I was like, no. And he was like, do you have a CFO? And I was like a chief financial officer. I was like, no. Like, what are you talking about? This kid was like, he was going to manage my money for me. He would have had me investing in stocks and bonds by the time, like until his dad took him away. Man, some of this stuff is crazy, but like, yeah, you meet some really amazing people. But I don't know. I've done, in a relatively short period of time, the last like 2 or 3 years, I've done so many shows and it's just been amazing. And I do them here in Spain all the time because there's a really robust Spanish circuit here. Because you've got Madrid, Barcelona, and Valencia and stuff like that. 3 big cities that have shows on all the time. And then there's like little pockets of festivals and stuff around because when we talk about comics, it kind of goes without saying, we're really kind of talking about American comics. And it is eye-opening to be over here kind of like on the continent and see just how much comics also means what's coming out of Belgium, Italy, France, and Spain. So there's a whole other, like, it's away from the capes and the superpowers. There's like people telling real slice of life stuff over here. The art is incredible. And so when you do the shows here, there are just as many, if not more, stands. Like, I'm a DC artist that lives here. So if the companies like Panini and ECC, which is just closed, they publish all of my work here. So I'll get a call and I'll be with Alvaro Martinez Bueno and guys like that. Bill Quisively was up at Barcelona last year and Matt Lopez. Yeah. So, but we're all invited over by these companies because they publish us here. But that's one stand in the middle of a whole load of publishers like Norma Editorial and stuff like that. And like, as I said, Panini. They pull in artists that like you wouldn't have heard of because they're outside the American market, but their stuff is unreal. Like it's a really creative environment living over here. It's really, really cool.
Oh, I'm glad you're seeing more of the world of comics because that passion is clearly there and it is bubbling. Your personality mixed with your passion is just a winning recipe.
Thank you, man. That's great.
I'm hoping this year when you do come back, there's going to be more panels for you at this year's Comic Con. I know they are thinking about a few more comics about Superman as well, which I'm happy about. But just as a sort of a perfect dream scenario for you, if you were a guest at a comic panel, and there could be any 3 comic creators on that stage from over the decades of comic creation, who would you love to hear from and have your questions answered?
Well, I think this is going to be just the most trite answer. I mean, I want to meet Jim Lee. I still haven't met Jim Lee, and Jim Lee is my boss, and I haven't met Jim Lee yet. So
well, I've got one up on you. I'm happy there.
Have you met Jim Lee?
I met Jim at San Diego Comic Con last year.
No way.
It was just
okay.
It was it was on my list if I could go up there and just say to him and just meet him, just have a quick hello, and it was great.
Yeah.
And he was doing signing at the DC booth, and I was like, at the other end, I was just finished talking with Tim. I was like, Tim, I've got to go. I've got to try and get over there, and we managed to. And it was just
Tim would understand 100%. Tim,
but we went back because Tim got a card. Tim got a card as well, but. It was just as DC released the news that they were re-releasing the Bullet logo, and we managed to go over there and get a few things signed. But Jim Lee, though, no, that's a good shout. Who else?
I mean, Joe Madureira. I have one of his pages here in the studio somewhere. You can't see. Unfortunately, I've been thinking about my camera setup. Like I've got a load of Stuart Immonen and Lee Weeks pages on the wall here that you can't see. So I was just pointing at the bare wall. I was like, I didn't realize how empty this. Well, because I'm facing into this corner every day. oh, I have a writing desk over there and there's loads of stuff going on. I'm like, I'm not treating anybody to a view of anything at this side because the studio stretches
that's
up.
fine. As long as you're being inspired, that's the main thing. Kid.
Yeah. So I need to get that Joe Mad page up as well. So Joe Mad 100% because his work just hit me at that sweet spot. So I like obviously Jim Lee's X-Men in my mind kind of just transitioned into Joe Mad when I was about like I picked up Battle Chasers. That changed my life. And all of the stuff he was doing on Uncanny X-Men and stuff when I was about 13 or 14. So it'd be Joe Mad. And then, I mean, I would have said as I'm older now, the creators and stuff that I love now, it's more of a craft thing than an emotional thing. Like it's obviously it's all emotional, but I just mean in terms of things hitting me at a sweet spot when I was younger. I'd say now I would love to be, I don't know, I see this the cool thing. I'm going to say that one of the corniest things ever, but I'm kind of blessed that half the other people I didn't name are my friends now. So like, you know, the Sean Murphys of the world, the Matteo Scaleras, all like the guys that I just, and also Julian Totino Tedesco, he's the guy that I would have just given my right arm to meet. And we were hanging out just like 6 months ago. So yeah, like this stuff just, you know, I don't want to sound like I'm overly optimistic or Mr. Sunshine because I'm not. Like I'll go into a deep depression once we hang up. But I got to tell you, man, this job just never stops being amazing. And if you are in the, like, you know, I'm sure I know you interview an awful lot of comic creators. One of the things that I have found, I hope that this is your experience as well, is that like it's such a difficult. It's not a difficult job to get into, but it does take a long time. So there is. Like you put the yards in before you get there. So almost everybody you meet in this industry has, like, they know how hard it is to get here. So everyone tends to be really welcoming. Like, and because it is a labor of love and the days are long, but like we do this because we love to tell stories and we love the characters that we work on. Almost everybody that you meet is really, really lovely and supportive of everything you're doing. And so I don't know, like, what I'll do is I'll just put I'll beside Joe and Jim on my perfect panel, I'll just have one like question mark seat that like literally anybody could sit in.
Surprise
and
guest.
I would be happy.
I like that. That's fine. But that is what I have noticed about especially artist alleys over the year. It is the friendships that are there. You're looking to see where your friends are, if they are close by, where you're going to go for food that night.
Oh,
so
yeah.
It's going to be, again, Comic Con is my favorite time of the year at Portsmouth Comic Con. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody that comes down. But it's going to be a great time, and I can't wait to speak with you more there and learn more of your stories. Where can people find your work online, Ken?
So my name is Cian Tormey, and the nice thing about that is, well, apart from the fact that American people can't pronounce it, so I am everything from Cian to Sean to you name it. But the nice thing about it is that there really aren't very many, because it's an Irish name. So I'm Cian Tormey on everything. If you Google me, you'll find me. And I managed to get the first handle for it. So for all the Cians who came after me, I'm sorry, but I am Cian Prime.
That's it. I love that.
So Cian Tormey on Twitter and Instagram, you'll find me. And
superb. Yep, and all those links will be down below as well. Cian, thank you not only for everything that you have done for the world of comics, but for coming back to Portsmouth Comic Con as well. I'm clearly an ambassador for it. I love it because the fact that the commute for me is minimal. You will be coming from beautiful sunny Spain.
I'm coming from Spain, so.
I mean, we're by the sea. It'll be a little bit sunny. I know a few nice tapas places down here as well, so we'll get that sorted out for you to get some decent food.
Not only do you have tapas places, which if you want, let's go and grab some tapas, but you also have a vending machine that sells pizzas.
Well, that's still there as well.
Yes, I had to do that. Like, I can't remember who was I with. I was with Jordan and David Bailey and David was convinced that there was a dude in that machine making those pizzas because he just couldn't wrap his head around just whatever weird phantom zone the pizzas were being produced from inside that box. I'm coming back for the pizza vending machine. I'm not going to lie. That's a big draw.
Portsmouth is it's my hometown. I'm proud of it. We've also had
beautiful, man.
We've had a fantastic music scene over the years, which has been great.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
We have the Victorious Festival each year. There's fun little bohemian parts of the town now that are popping up.
Yeah.
But the food in Portsmouth over the years is just getting better and better and better. So we've got the tapas, we've got pizza machines now as well.
Yes, I know. Hey, it's the future.
Yeah, we've got fantastic sushi. We've got a pie shop coming. Pie Caramba, which is just a fantastic.
Oh, yes.
They were at the Comic Con last year. They sell like geeky pies, but their restaurants are like, it's pretty much like a comic geek haven. There's statues and artwork
amazing.
everywhere. But
well, man, listen, let's grab lunch when I'm there. You can show me some of this stuff. It'd be amazing. Yeah,
it'd be awesome. But yeah, it's coming in a couple of weeks. Portsmouth Comic Con. Cian, you will be coming. Thank you for your time today, sir, and I can't wait to hear more of you. All right, take care, buddy.
Anytime, man. See you, man. Bye.